Okay, everyone. Welcome back to the stream. I know I haven't done this in a while. Let's go and turn it down so I can hear myself. Okay. Okay. Sorry, folks. I'm already having technical difficulties. Just got back and already stuff is screwing up. Here we go. Alright. So, as you can see right here, I have remodeled my old Phoenix Fighter model, and you will notice a very strong resemblance to a Viper from Battlestar Galactica, and in truth, the inspiration came from a Battlestar Galactica Viper, and I decided to incorporate it into this design, and that's mainly because I'll copy and paste the old version of the Phoenix before I did the remodel. It's probably going to be huge because I had to scale it down, but it's about right. Okay, so as you can see, the old model, it had a more, I guess you could call it aerodynamic. I mean, it looked more like a modern day fighter, you know, the intakes and stuff of that nature, and then of course it was built for both atmospheric and in space flight, so I added a plethora of engines to kind of support that idea, and I wanted to keep that kind of aerodynamic look, so I pretty much took a Viper and was like, you know what, it looks pretty cool, especially one of the futuristic, or I guess the concept models of Vipers, the ones that, you know, fans make and stuff of that nature, or the ones that were scrapped by the original concept artists. So that was really the forefront of my inspiration, and of course I took some other elements from some of my other fighter models, and I added them, like the missile launchers here, the X-rails, and I decided to get rid of the multiple missile launcher right here, and I got rid of a lot of the weaponry in here because, of course, a lot of my design style has changed, so I wanted to update everything with a more up-to-date, you know, model style. And then one thing you'll also notice is that there's two variants of this fighter. Here is the two cockpit version where a weapons officer sits in the front and then the pilot sits in the back. And I know that's awkward given how most naval fighters or two-seaters, the weapons officer is usually in the back and then the pilot is in the front, but given the fact that Viper pilots usually are, you know, kind of centered either in like the middle, or they're more pushed back towards, you know, the engine section, it gave them, I guess, a better sense of control over the Viper. And so I was thinking, you know, if a Viper pilot was usually centered where a normal Viper would be, then having him all the way up in the front will probably throw off his sense of balance, his or her sense of balance with the fighter and stuff of that nature. So having it back there, I thought it was a better idea. And then the weapons officer, of course, will have, you know, control of, you know, launching missiles or other ordnance and stuff of that nature. And then here is also another thing I wanted to note is that this one could also be considered a trainer for the actual fighter model that is more combat driven and specialized to a certain pilot's interests, you know, color scheme, stuff of that nature. And then if I was to actually scale, make these group for this sake, and then move all the extra stuff that I was, oops, all the extra stuff that I wasn't using out of the way. If you see the Prothean fighter here that I have, it's about the same size, so that's really good for when I was scaling my frigate models and all the other ships that I have too, because didn't want to make this fighter, too big or too small. Too small to the point where, it wasn't plausible, and then too big to the point where it wouldn't be able to fit into any of my kind of standardized ship models. One thing though that I decided to go against was like the personalized art on here, and that's mainly because I haven't learned how to really not script, but texture, and a lot of the work that I do is just just painted on materials, stuff of that nature. So that's one of those things I have to embark on at one point in my 3D modeling career. But yeah, it's what I've been working on for the last couple of weeks, which is why I haven't done any streams. This model was very difficult at first, especially getting like the sleekness, because I really wanted to focus on getting curves and the aerodynamicness, if that's even a word, the aerodynamics down with this, and I feel like I've come a long way from just making like this angle right here, doing like the triangle thing, and then doing whatever else. Granted, it's not perfect the way I want it to, but it's a good step towards the right direction, I feel. And then I took a lot of the details that the Viper Mark 7 had from Battlestar Galactica, the miniseries, and I tried to incorporate that into this design as well. So I kind of kept to the theme. And then the nameplate here is actually in reference to one of my best friends who lives in Florida right now. I'm originally painted this fighter orange and gray, mainly because orange was her favorite color, so I was like, yeah, I'll do a theme for you, and and this is how it turned out. I didn't want to put too much orange on this one, mainly because it would kind of throw off the militaristic look I felt. Even though in my universe, having pilots being able to customize their fighters in any way they kind of want to, in terms of paint schemes goes, I still wanted to kind of keep it generally realistic, because if you're running around with like a completely painted like blue or green fighter or something of that sort, that's going to be really easy to detect, especially when you're going off of sight versus radar. So keeping it this color was a good idea in my opinion. And then I also incorporated the Navy's I think it's called a formation light. Yeah, the formation lights. I also incorporated those because I thought about it when I was looking at a lot of Battlestar Galactica episodes, stuff of that nature. The Vipers didn't have those, and mainly they were there so you could see and you could tell how close you are, kind of relative estimate, where you are in conjunction to other fighters, stuff like that. If you're flying in formation, and granted, Battlestar Galactica has a lot of realistic elements to it. Nexus really shined a light on the idea that not every single place in space or every battle in space is going to have, a shined light per se, over the battlefield, or like that natural sense of light, due to the fact that, there's going to be objects shading certain areas. So if a fighter like this, which is shaded, a very, very dark shade of gray, possibly, black, and fighters like this, which is not as dark as this shade, but still relatively dark with, the gray aspects to it, it's going to be hard to fucking see. And, you want to be able to have those formation lights on to be able to see your friends. And of course, they can be turned on and off. So if you wanted to do a stealth mission, stuff of that nature, you could definitely conduct those without giving away your positions. And another good way I thought of how the lights will work is if you're in a really intense combat situation, you can't pick friend from foe initially because, there's so much going on, the chaos of a battle, seeing the formation lights on, stuff of that nature, I thought will probably help you. I don't know specifically because I'm not a naval pilot, or I don't have that kind of experience. I don't have that kind of experience, but it was just a random idea that I thought of. I'm definitely gonna have to come back and update the Prometheus and the Prothean fighters that I have to be up to date. So I can actually add some of these concepts onto them as well, because I don't want to leave them out. Now, one thing that I have noticed is how I'm going to be able to fit the Phoenix Fighters into my universe without having to contradict another purpose of another fighter. And the Prothean and the Prometheus fighters are more space-based fighters, where the Prothean is a more heavy weapons, more weapons-based fighter. So it's meant to hold a variety of different kinds of weapons for different missions and be able to conduct those missions pretty well and hold its own against, other fighters, stuff of that nature, and keep up. While the Prometheus is very similar, it can be launched from the ground relatively easily as well. And then the Phoenix, though it's a heavy fighter, it can be also used as an interceptor because it's really fast and sleek. And then that also helps with its atmospheric flight as well, because it can get into the atmosphere and then get out, and then also perform combat with its sleekness and dominate in the air. So if I was to really match it, I would say, or compare it, I would say like the Phoenix fighters are more like the longsword fighters from Halo, where they can go into space and they can fight in the air, and they can be pretty dominant in both, versus like the Saber and the Prometheus being mainly space superiority fighters, so they're dedicated to their role. Yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to do with this stream. Is just oops, there we go. Oh no, I hate it when that happens. I don't know why it decides to. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I'm still trying to learn how to deal with layers and stuff like that, so that's definitely a problem. I've had multiple instances where I'll be in a different layer, the wrong layer, and end up like turning it off or turning some other layer off, and everything just like disappears. I'm like, oh shit, fuck, I gotta backtrack. But now that's pretty much all I wanted to do with this stream, is just do a showcase of what I've been working on, and I'm also going to give you guys a lineup of what the next 4 3D model endeavors I'm going to be diving into. And those are the Raven class supercarrier, which is the big brother, I named big brother, more like the mother of the Orion class carrier model that I did. So it's going to be about possibly double, triple the size, but with less weaponry. And I'll give you a little synopsis over that. And the Raven class carrier is going to be more material oriented and deployment oriented, if that makes any sense. And what I mean by that is it's going to focus on the deployment of fighter aircraft, dropships, supporting the fleet, stuff of that nature, and not be a frontline fighter. So if there was, say for instance, there was a hostile enemy engaging, you know, a planet or an outpost or a station, something of that sort, or something of that you know, magnitude, the supercarrier would be far away from the fight, maybe on like the northern hemisphere of the planet when everything else is going on in like the southern hemisphere of the planet, so that sort, and you know, and sending fighters towards the battle versus being in the middle of it. And though the carrier will not be in the forefront of the fighting, it will still have defenses, of course, to prevent itself from being obliterated. And of course, its main weapons in most combat situations is going to be its strike craft. And then the next thing I'm going to be designing is a mobile shipyard. So this is mainly based from Homeworld, and mobile shipyards are going to be civilian contracted ships. Pretty much, it's almost like the civilian sector of our military and how they provide a lot of the defense weaponry, stuff of that nature. And that idea is based around mobile shipyards following fleets and acting as a support role to replenish ships and other equipment while on the move. And then these mobile shipyards can either restock, or they could be working in conjunction with like actual shipyards based on planets, and then other stations that are constructing materials and other weapons and stuff of that nature. After the mobile shipyard, I'm going to be designing a heavy dropship. I have a dropship model that I was using for the game that just kind of died out on me in the past. So what I plan to do is probably remodel that and make it space worthy, because originally it was a oversized helicopter, if you will. So some of the perks of that, of course, it's going to be orbit capable. It's going to be able to carry mechs, tanks, mobile bases, stuff of that nature. The closest thing I can think of that is in relation to that would be the pods from Halo Wars on the Spirit of Fire, where they could drop down like mobile bases and stuff like that. And then also inspiration comes from Star Wars, where the Super Star Destroyers can carry like prefabricated bases and stuff of that nature. So that's a cool idea. And inspiration is definitely gonna be coming from Homeworld, of course, Star Wars, but mainly Command and Conquer, Tiberian Sun. I really, really like their dropship designs. And after that, I have a mobile mining installation, which is going to be working, of course, in conjunction with the mobile shipyard, and there's another support ship that follows military fleets and can be deployed to numerous asteroid belts, stuff of that nature, whenever fleets pass by them, if they're doing recon runs. So, yep, that's pretty much this stream, and I hope everyone can tune in or at least watch the streams after they're completed whenever I decide to start streaming these. So I will see you guys when I start.